we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect am.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Who has the right of way? Nigerian roads come with a lot of chaos. The chaos is caused by a combination of drivers, motorcycle and tricycle riders, pedestrians and sellers who all claim the right of way. The chain of right of way holders in Nigeria is hierarchical, and car and motor drivers are at the top of the chain with pedestrians at the bottom. Car or motor drivers believe that they always have the right of way regardless, and motorcycle and tricycle riders don't even have any regard for who has the right of way. For fear of accidents and their lives, pedestrians have learned to cower. When a collision occurs, the question of who has the right of way is on the lip of all concerned as they try to figure out who is guilty. The law doesn't grant anyone the right of way, but you yield it to other road users under these circumstances. At a yield sign, to pedestrians in a crosswalk, to persons using a seeing eye guide dog, to persons using a white cane with or without a red tape, at T intersections where you must yield to vehicles on the through road, at uncontrolled intersections where vehicles are already in the intersection, when driving on an unpaved road that intersects with a paved road, when returning to the roadway after a car is parked. Pedestrians must always be yielded the right of way at intersections and crosswalks. Treat bicycles as motor vehicles. Yield to bicyclists in all situations where you would yield to a car. For example, wait for an oncoming bicycle to pass before turning left. Turn right at a red light if it's permitted and no vehicles are approaching. If you see a sign that says no right turn on red, then you must wait for the light to turn green again. Otherwise, you must turn right at a red light after yielding to oncoming traffic. Stop for pedestrians who've begun crossing the road. Once a pedestrian has begun crossing the road, they have the right of way. You should also stop for pedestrians waiting to cross at crosswalks that aren't controlled by a traffic light. Yield to oncoming traffic if you're entering a main road.
Good morning. You're welcome to the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Tinubu to present 2024 budget on Wednesday, and lawmakers push for 32 new federal varsities. That's the top trending.
Well, actually, the hot topics.
That's a hot topic,
yeah,
sorry. And we'll move
today.
to the top trending.
Yeah. Okay, so my name is Nyamgul Agaji. I'd like to welcome you to today's edition of The Breakfast. Today is the 28th day of November.
Yes.
If I remember well, 30 days of September, April, June, and November, all the rest of 30. You're laughing. You remember that? Okay, that means that we have just 2 more days to the end of November, and voila, we're
Christmas
in
is here.
December.
The holidays.
Yes, we saw some companies lighting their streets and their offices. The Christmas lights are already out. So if the Christmas lights are out, you know that Christmas is here. So whatever you need to do for Christmas, you do.
Well, now is the time to go and get your Christmas clothes.
But you know it's not my birthday, it's Jesus' birthday. I'll be in church to say happy birthday to Jesus.
Well, there's that.
Everybody who's looking up to
I think I still want my Christmas. I wish I was still a kid. I remember when they would buy Christmas clothes and shoes, and you're so excited. I would try them on like every single day before Christmas because I cannot wait to wear them on Christmas Day.
I know how many children were spanked because of that. They buy you Christmas shoes, maybe 2 weeks to the Christmas, and you begin to try them so much, and you're like,
out of excitement.
You want to spoil them before the Christmas Day, and you're spanked and all that.
I know.
But it was fun, you know. Just growing up was fun. But right now, as an adult, someone comes to you and just suddenly asks you, "What do you want for Christmas?"
That's a very good question.
You'll be,
No, I have a list.
Really? A list?
I'll have a list for you. What do I want? Oh, please, can we talk about houses and cars and
houses
shoes?
for Christmas?
Why not? You have to.
Were you the one who was born on
higher.
Christmas? Were you the one who was born on Christmas?
I'm Jesus' child, though.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're so glad that you're here today. We have top trending issues. You might just want to take the top trending.
Okay, so for our top trending, we have a few stories for you. The first one is gunmen kill 2 Nigerian policemen, 1 civilian in Imo State. Gunmen have struck again in Imo State, killing 2 Nigerian policemen and a civilian at Ahira Junction in the Ahiazu Mbise local government area of the state. The attack came on Monday. At the time, the new commissioner of the police in the state, Danjuma Abuki, was in the area on a morale-boosting visit to his officers in the Mbise general area. The attackers opened fire on the officers who were in uniform in the area, killing them instantly, while another civilian who was a passerby was hit by a stray bullet. The spokesperson for the police in the state, Henry Okoye, said that the commander declared a manhunt for the fleeing suspects. He said the Commissioner of Police in Imo State Command, CP Aboki Danjuman, Commander 34 Artillery Brigade, and Joint Task Force operatives are combing the scene of the crime for evidence that will possibly lead to the arrest of hoodlums responsible for the attack and the killing of 2 policemen at the Ahira Junction in Ahiazu Mbise local government area of Imo State. Only on Saturday evening, the lifeless body of a traditional ruler of Utulu Autonomous Community in the neighboring Ehinze Hite Mbise local government area, Eze, Joe Ochulo, was found dead at the neighboring Abo Mbise local government area. The monarch had been kidnapped from his palace on Saturday morning. Also, a few days earlier, the ward chairman of the People's Democratic Party in the Ife Akodim Chokonze ward in the Heizin Hite Mbise local government area of the state, Chiedoziem Anyanwu, was assassinated in the presence of his wife. On arrival, his killers demanded to see him and immediately shot him repeatedly as soon as they confirmed he was the one they were looking for.
It's so sad.
Story.
It's as if we're having parallel governments. The bandits are running their own country within the country, and then we're running ours. And to imagine the kind of confidence, it was timed to coincide with when the police chief was in the area to show that, yes, you cannot do anything. You look him in the eyes and say you can't do anything. And then they shot 2 policemen. And then most unfortunate is the fact that a passerby, a civilian who had nothing to do, even the police didn't have anything to do anyway, but this one also, I wonder where he was going to, and then he got shot.
By stray bullets.
It's so, all the areas you're mentioning are areas I have been to. I have friends in Imo State, and they happen to come from that area, and it's so scary. It feels like I'm hearing stories from home, and how the Ezinite that they're talking about, the Ahira Junction, the Abombise and all that, those are the areas I visit anytime I'm going to Imo State. So it feels like something really tragic has happened back home. But Nigeria is home. Any part of Nigeria is home. So if something happens like this, you can't but just feel for the people who are there and think about how Nigeria has deteriorated into a state of chaos. You can hear 10 or let's say 20 years ago, nobody ever believed you could hear a bomb blast in Nigeria. You could hear gunshots anyhow in Nigeria. You couldn't. We had the times of Anini, the armed robber, so many other names. But then
it was robbery.
But just
not
robbery.
Bandits and gunmen and Boko Haram and all of, like, there's so much insurgents that has taken
assassination, because like this chief, you know, they came, asked, identified him, and immediately shot him. It means that they were expressly either sent or he was just a target because of one or two things.
And when they were sure that he was the one, that was when they shot. So they did not even want to look for someone else and shoot the wrong person. It had to be that person.
So it wasn't a robbery, it wasn't anything, it was a targeted assassination. And it's been happening all the time.
What's happening in the East is really sad, because you're hearing so many stories on gunmen. In fact, people cannot go home. I'm sure, like, this is Christmas. Usually people who are from the East, they love to go home during the holiday season. They love to, you know, have parties. They see it as a reunion, basically. But now, with all of this, you can't even go home. There are people, I have a friend who was supposed to go bury her dad in the East, but she's like, I don't want any of my friends to come, because I cannot guarantee your safety. I cannot guarantee that you will be secured when you're there, because there's a lot of things happening. And it's quite sad. It's heart-wrenching.
This same Imo is where I was telling the story the other day that 5 members of my family were kidnapped. They were going back to Abia State from a burial that they went to in Imo State, and they were kidnapped, 5 of them, and they were asking us. They were quite cheap, you know. They were asking for 50 million.
Wow, that's quite cheap.
But for 5 people, you know, 50.
My question is,
where am I going to cover? It was terrible, because at that same point, you know, we had just lost my sister. My elder sister had just died. So we were trying to, you know, put some things together to make sure that we did the burial. And then they kidnapped 5 people, and we're asking for 50 million.
Do you know the worst part of this is the fact that even sometimes when they ask you for this money, it doesn't guarantee that that person is coming back to you.
A lot of people...
Most times they still kill these people.
Even the person carrying the ransom money sometimes is being killed
as well. So they take the money and they still kill these people. Why?
And so we don't know.
That's really sad.
We're stuck between the devil and the deep blue sea. Some people will say do not negotiate with bandits because
terrorists
or terrorists and all that. Some would say negotiate because there's a possibility you might save a life. But we have lost so many lives that if we had from the onset taken a decisive action, maybe now things like this wouldn't be happening. I remember when, was it Mikel Obi or one of the footballers, the father was kidnapped, and he said in one of his interviews that his boss, I think the owner of Chelsea then, that is Ukrainian, is a Russian. So he said, well, your father has been kidnapped. If you want me to send some people, I could do that. And in a matter of days, they will be out. Which means even people who are not from Nigeria know how to get to these people and rescue. We had a case of Americans being rescued the other time. They came from America, rescued their person and left. But our own people are still here, which means when they tell stories that maybe the security people are compromised, you'll just believe that.
You
believe it.
So for me, I have a question. For states like Imo, where these things are happening, shouldn't there be like a state of emergency? Because this is really bad right now, even though I'm saying that they're killing even the police people as well.
Who will declare it a state of emergency when so many people are fingering the governor also of being someone who is making the insecurity to go very high? And when it happened that Ajaero, for instance, was beaten,
being
everybody
brutalized.
wanted him to make a statement. And he didn't make a statement until after the election. He said, okay, it's unfortunate, but he still added he's pursuing his personal ambition. That's why he did what he did.
But I remember that because I'm from Delta State, and there was a point where there was like the Warri crisis between the Urhobos and the Ishekiris. However, during that crisis, it was just a crisis. It wasn't even like killings as much as this with unknown gunmen and stuff. But there was still a state of emergency that was being declared, at least for things to be able to come to normalcy a little bit before you now say, okay, the governor can, go ahead with his duties and all of that.
But he is the one who should declare the state of emergency. So
right.
whether you are a part of it or not, your silence will say a lot of things that you may not even want to say. So if you say what you're supposed to say and then you are still a part of it, people will even forgive you because they might not know. But you're just silent. So whether you're a part of what is happening or not, your silence says
a lot.
It's a lot. Because sometimes just words of mouth can make some people go back and say, okay, let me have a rethink, because if this guy is against it, I might be caught any day and they might take decisive actions against me. The governor should be up and doing and do what he's supposed to do.
Okay, let's move over to the next top trending story. The federal government to collaborate with organized private sector to boost tourism. This is the minister. So the Minister for Tourism, Lola Adejohn, has announced a strategic partnership with the private sector to foster skill acquisition, poverty eradication, and economic development through tourism. She said this during the unveiling of the Prosperity Assured Economic Initiative in Abuja on Monday. The event highlighted the commitment of stakeholders to sustainable economic development and poverty eradication. Adejohn said fostering an enabling environment for key developments and poverty eradication through inclusive policies and strategic partnerships is our priority. She outlined the government's aim to create expertise and background for the next generation of players in the tourism industry. She also emphasized the ministry's shared commitment to fostering a vision where every individual can thrive and contribute meaningfully to society. The minister's remarks came as she expressed gratitude for a collaborative effort with the Global Youth Skill Acquisition and the Poverty Eradication Organization. The organization has initiated the Grow Niger Feed the World project, a comprehensive strategy designed to uplift and empower grassroots farmers, enhancing their knowledge and overall livelihood activities. Ambassador Emmanuel Ozegbe, the founder of GYSAPEO, underscored the project's impact and called for more involvement from public and private sector players to support the initiative. He also noted that the initiative has yielded significant economic benefits. According to him, recent statistics indicate that 45% of project beneficiaries discovered new market opportunities, resulting in a noteworthy 60% expected increase in their financial standing in the upcoming project phase. The organization spokesperson Amara Chukwu Atuze revealed the expectations for the Prosperity Assured Economic Initiative as aiming not only to train 25,000 farmers in Nigeria, but also to develop the tourism potential of farming communities across the nation. It's a good initiative.
Yeah, it's good. The government should know that they will never lack private partners if the environment is enabling enough for them to thrive. And for the farmers that are already farmers that may not need that much of training, what are they doing to make sure that their work is enhanced? Because, for instance, you go to my community, I always use my community, go to my community, it's agrarian. They plant cassava, they plant yam, they plant rice. They know how these things are done. They know what they should use to do the things that they're supposed to do, but they're not there. You go to any village in Nigeria, okay, at least where I come from, you can't see a single tractor that is used to plow. There are no machinery of any sort. And if these things were available to the farmers, even if to go and rent these things with a small amount of money, come and do their farm, there will be more food. And if something is done deliberately about irrigation, there will be more food, because it is an all-year thing. They can plant this rice or yams or anything that will need some water all year round.
Yes.
But you're not doing this. You're training more people, putting them back into the market without anything that will make them thrive in that thing that you're training them to come and do. It's like training teachers and there are no schools.
How can you even have a farmer without a hoe? That's exactly. That is my first question.
Exactly.
How do you have a farmer without a hoe? So you must give the farmer the machinery that they need to be able to, grow these crops. And the good thing is we have a good soil, right? Agriculture is one thing Africa is known for. And so if we have the right tools, we will be able to grow more food. In fact, we don't have to import rice.
We have no reason.
It is a contraband, but
we have no reason to import rice at all in Nigeria. Rice in Nigeria, even in Lagos here, I've seen a lot of places, marshy lands and all the places, they will tell you there's no land in Lagos. But I tell you, at least there is land that you can plant rice and feed a few communities. So that even if you're bringing rice from outside and you're feeding people in Lagos, this one will already be in the market as well. So no matter how small it is, there's a possibility that it will feed so many people that the prices will be forced to go down. But they're telling you there's no land in Lagos, there's nothing, there's that.
Even in Ogun State, there are lots of lands. There's a lot of farming being done there. And I know this is a conspiracy theory, but there's something I've heard in the past that says Adolf Hitler wanted to use Africa as the agricultural hub to feed the world. Now, I know it's a conspiracy theory, but for every smart person, you can take whatever you want to take out of that. So if Adolf Hitler says he wants Africa to be the agricultural hub, why don't you say, I want to be the agricultural hub for myself. I want to be able to feed the world, feed the nation. We import a lot of things. And the only way you can grow your revenue is for you to export out of the country, because that way you are trading with all these other countries. Now, what you're doing, you're importing. So every money that you get, you are spending it.
It remains there.
Do you understand? But meanwhile, you can actually use it, because we were kind of focused on oil.
Only oil. Don't even mention another one. Just oil.
But meanwhile, we can be focused on agriculture.
There was a time that cocoa was the in thing in Nigeria. And then there was also a time where palm oil was also the in thing. And then we abandoned that. In fact, Malaysia had to come to Nigeria to learn.
And now they're the biggest.
Yeah. So you can see we lack the spirit of diversification.
We take things for granted, like the resources that has been given to us by God. Because I always say Nigeria is a very blessed country. We don't have...
I think we're too blessed, so we take it for granted.
We don't have natural disasters. There's nothing like we don't... The only issue is sometimes, the economic realities, and maybe we don't have enough policies by the government to be able to enable us to have, a good livelihood. However, there's no natural disaster. Our soil is good. We have a warm weather all round. We're blessed. And we need to start thinking of how to use those resources that we have to be able to get in more things into our country.
Yeah, well, when you talked about natural disasters, I remember that they're so few and far apart that at one point in Benue State a few months ago, when a thunder or lightning killed 2 people or killed a man and his family, the community felt it was his old father that was responsible. And they buried this man and the friend alive. Whoa. So it tells you they are not used to this kind of things. They are attributing it to supernatural forces that are not supposed to be, wicked witches and all that and all that. Because if these things were common in Nigeria, they would understand that they happen. But because it's not common, they're still thinking it's witchcraft.
Katrina, all this.
They never see something.
Okay, let's take the final top trending story. Israel and Hamas extend truce in Gaza for 2 days. The 4-day truce between Israel and Hamas in Gaza has been extended for another 2 days amid commendations of the released hostages from both sides. According to a report, Qatar disclosed this, adding that the Hamas said the extension was under the same conditions, which were for 50 Israeli hostages to be released in exchange for 150 Palestinian prisoners. Meanwhile, Israel has yet to affirm this, but has asserted that there would be a day's pause in the fighting for every 10 Israeli hostages released. This came as both sides prepared for the final exchange under the initial deal that took effect on Friday. 11 Israeli women and children held in Gaza and 33 Palestinian women and teenagers in Israel jails are expected to be released. Hamas, which is regarded as a terrorist organization by Israel, has freed 39 Israelis over the previous 3 days. In exchange, Israel has freed 117 Palestinian prisoners. 19 foreign nationals, one of whom Israeli citizenship, has also been handed over Hamas under separate agreements. The cessation of the fighting has also allowed a tremendous rise in deliveries of aid to Gaza, where there is deepening humanitarian crisis. Before the extension was announced, the Palestinian official told one of the biggest news agencies between 20 and 40 additional Israelis hostages could be freed by Hamas. An Israeli official, meanwhile, said that 184 people remained in captivity in Gaza, including 14 foreign nationals and 80 Israelis with dual citizenship. Israel launched a military campaign in Gaza and imposed a siege in response to an unprecedented cross-border attack by Hamas gunmen, in which killed at least 1,200 people were also killed and about 240 people were taken hostage. Gaza's Hamas-run government says more than 14,800 people have been killed in the territory since the war began.
Well, we thank God that at least small gains are being made by the people who are negotiating, and we hope for peace, because if this war continues, it might divide the world into two parts. One will be for Palestinians, because there will be mostly Muslim countries, and then the other ones for Israel. Israel is not even Christian, by the way.
But they practice Judaism.
Yeah, so but that is how the world will be divided, because most Christians, even though they know that Israel doesn't practice Christianity, they just feel
like Jesus came from
it's
God's own state.
That is how it is. So I just pray that there will be peace. But I keep asking myself the question, if a neighboring country, just unprovoked, attacks us the way Hamas attacked Israel, how prepared are we as Nigeria to fend off this attack?
I just had goosebumps. I wish I wasn't wearing it. I just had goosebumps, because that is scary. It's
very scary. Are we prepared for it? Because this world is getting crazy. Individuals and groups are getting crazy and crazier and crazier. What if it happens to Nigeria? Are we prepared enough?
Can we defend Nigeria?
That's a question that the people who need to listen should listen to and see what they can do. It goes beyond just buying guns to shoot. There are a lot of things when you're talking about security, but hey, we're not the experts, but we do hope that everything is put in place, everything beyond just money and buying a lot of things. Our defense has been taking like the greatest chunk of our budget. Still, we are not seeing anything. So something else, maybe another approach should be used, and let's find a Nigeria that is more secure.
But one thing I want to say is war is never the option.
Never. At the end of the day, we'll come back to the table. The same table we should have just sat at.
And negotiate. Like, even if there's an issue, we can always negotiate. Like, I feel like with the Hamas, Gaza, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. Like, why? Even if you felt some type of way, talk about it. Even in our daily lives, if you have an issue with a friend, a brother, a colleague, talk about it. You don't have to, go through grievous means to hurt them. So war is never an option.
So let's not war even with ourselves. And that is how we are going to end this segment and take a short break. And when we return, we'll be reviewing the papers. Stay with us.
Sometimes, it's not just the distance we travel. It's the gaps we close. It's not the things we buy. It's the memories we create. Sometimes, it's beyond the places we go. It's the connections we make. not just the things we taste. It's the taste of things to come. And it's never a question of if, but when. Because life is always just a bit better with American Express. Introducing the Access Bank American Express Gold Card and the Metal Platinum Card, now available through Access Bank.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and numbers. Africa Agility's Project Train a Girl campaign is working to help train African girls in tech. You can donate as little as $2 or 2,000 naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
The pandemic opened the world to a new dispensation regarding work. How people work and the career paths they take differ from generation to generation. There are 5 generations present in the modern workplace, each with unique expectations and perspectives. A person's career path is described as the work they do and the roles they hold as they climb up the ladder. Before the millennium, career paths for many was simply linear, which could be a person working at the same organization and growing there till they retired, or a person working in the same role but changing jobs a couple of times. Security and staying power were the cornerstone of this career path. However, with modern technology, a person's career path can be as multifaceted and versatile as the individual wishes. Millennials now work multiple roles in their career trajectories, pursue numerous passions that are sometimes interwoven, and work at different roles in their journeys. Baby boomers and Generation X only considered a job good if it gave them the security to work there till they retire. But for millennials and Gen Z, the workplace has changed, and so has the career structure. Millennials often change their career paths or juggle multiple interests simultaneously. Being able to move from one job to another might signal a person's employability and adaptability. Baby boomers tend to believe that working long hours is what defines success and value face-to-face interactions with co-workers. In contrast, millennials believe that innovation and flexibility are key ingredients for success at work. The shift in occupational structures, for example, the increasing gig economy, is leading to polarization in employment, wages, and inequalities. From remote work policies to virtual leadership, the pandemic changed how we work. The opportunity to telework increased for some, such as knowledge workers, but not for frontline workers. Among the benefits are an improved work-life balance for some, as well as changed attitudes to well-being. Teleworking can lead to a higher productivity and lower operating costs for companies. Work is increasingly flexible and decentralized. Working from home or out of a workspace is favored by many because of the flexibility that comes with it. Millennials and Gen Zs prefer flexible work schedules and part-time hours so that they can balance their work and life compared to older generations who prefer security.
Some people are social people. You know, when they go to the office, they have friends everywhere. Good morning. How was the football match? You know, you just with your colleagues and stuff like that. That social element at work, a lot of people need it. Me personally, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also high on the introverted side. I like going to parties, I like making friends, but I also like keeping to myself. So at work, I'm not the friendliest. I would smile, I would say hi, but I don't need to. So it depends on your personality and what you need. For me, work from home works a lot for me because I get to spend time with my family. I'm always in the house with my partner, and that really makes me happy.
Abraham, Moses, Jacob, you are one family.
There's no dream of this sport in Nigeria.
See how your body just dripping diamond.
I don't have one yet because I'm yet to be rich. So when I'm rich now, I will have one. But like this, I can just go. I do freestyle, go to wherever I like. But for now, I don't have any favorite. Now my own mind, I tell you, I know the life for you. It's not like you're on TV. I'm trying to film. I'm just studying my mind. So I don't have any favorite destination for now.
In Nigeria, there are a couple of places in Abuja, a couple of amusement parks in Abuja. I usually, Wonderland, a couple of nice spots.
Since I stay in Lagos, so my first destination is like Landmark Beach. This is one of the most favorite of mine. And then this landmark destinations, landmark park. I mean, it's pretty good. It's unique, you know. It's well designed, and I think it's quite well known in international for international occasions. And I think many people will know it later on. Yes.
Landmark is cool. I like Landmark. Everybody loves the sun, like beach sun and everything. The surroundings is very alright.
And the girls?
No, I don't know about the girls. I'm not a girls guy.
So what do you like, guys?
No, I like girls, but I'm not like, nah, I don't do everybody that much.
Yeah, Lekki Conventional Center. It's chill now. I like their overhead ropes. Yeah, that's why. It's why it's cool.
Obodo Katura.
And why is that?
I've seen pictures and I've heard a lot about it. I think I'll go all through the cable car,
where I
Thank you for staying with us. Now we'll be looking at the paper review to know what the national dailies are saying. It's time for After Press. And I have with me Chris Kehinde Wandu, who's a member of the Chartered Institute of the Arbitrators in the UK. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with The Guardian. And the headline here says, federal government proceeds with unambitious budget, proposes 27.5 trillion naira next year. That is quite a huge amount, 27.5 trillion naira. And well, people are saying that it is quite unambitious. What do you think about that?
There's nothing wrong in being ambitious. The fact is that when you're ambitious, you also try to be as moderate as you can be, as it were. But this is just a budget estimate, so it's not cast in stone or on stone, as it were. 27.5 trillion, that is the highest budget we have in the history of Nigerian independence since 1960. So, and they've given item by item ways by which they are going to meet that target, which to me looks so unrealistic. One of it is that we are predicating it on 1.8 million barrel per day, which is not possible. I've never seen any time we made that target. Even the OPEC target for Nigeria was 1.6. And at the point, we are just hovering between 1 million and 1.2 because of the oil theft. But because of the level of security within the Niger Delta around those oil pipeline, which seems to be making some improvement on that. So I don't know what it stands at last time. So, but I think the last time I heard was between 1.3 or 1.4. So 1.8 is too ambitious. And the other items listed there. So, but on Wednesday, the president will be presenting it to the National Assembly as it were, and they will deliberate on it. Don't forget that what we're having in the budget estimate, as it is, it has always been the National Assembly at times will remove some of the items and add some other ones, cut down on some other areas and add. So that is what is that. If they have the will and the capacity to be able to achieve it, all well and good. But I've always seen that most of the budget, we don't seem to be doing so much in terms of infrastructure, and it's always on recurrent rather than capital expenditure. And we are Nigerians who want more to be done in the area of capital expenditure, where the infrastructure are talking about the road, the electricity, water, and the rest of it, rather than just using most of this money to just pay the peck of officers. Most of our politicians, paying National Assembly members, paying presidential aides, flying from heaven to earth, as well as eating elephants instead of moderating their lifestyles, just as the past Nigerians do. But all and good, the president is going to present it on Wednesday. And the other good thing about it is that we seem to be back to the January to December budget cycle, which for a long time wasn't used. There were instances in the past where our budget cycle starts in March, some in April, some even as late as June. But that was practically changed by the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, and they think that the Tinubu administration is trying to follow that.
Okay, so
sorry, I've never known the marked difference between a budget that started maybe mid-year and the one that starts in January. For instance, the administration even of the president begins in the middle of the year, so to speak. So what is that marked difference that starting a budget from January to and ending in December has over starting it at any point in the year and running it till that same point the next year?
Yeah, the fact is that we know that it was an inherited, what the Tinubu administration had was an inherited budget from the last administration. Every administration, it's just like company. Some companies, it depends on the article of association and the memorandum of understanding of the company. So, but there's always a budget cycle. A budget cycle is supposed to start from January, most to December. So that is why you saw also that the government at a point brought in some supplementary budgets within the year. What they saw out was that of the last administration, which also projected a one-year budget, but that was tinkered by the rest. But this administration is starting its first major full budget is going to start from January 2024. To the end of December 2024, and that is what it is.
Okay, so something that really caught my attention here is the exchange rate that says 750 per dollar. Now, as of yesterday, the dollar was on the black market, it was about 1,145. So can we really get to a 750 per dollar economy?
I really doubt that. Don't forget that this same government said that there's going to be only one market. There's not going to be official and parallel market. So I don't know how they're going to do that. If the dollar is down to about 700 by next year, I don't know, but that is practically impossible. The only way you can be able to bring down a shock within the disparity we have between the naira and dollar is by making sure that we're exporting enough and importing less. By the time you export more, you earn more. And that is how you earn. It's not just by just making pronouncements. So many pronouncements by the government in the past few months on how to show down, we're going to bridge the gap between the disparity between the naira and the dollar. It doesn't seem to work. At the point, yes, it's, there has been some level of appreciation. The dollar has moved from 1,100 to about 990 something or whatever. And everybody was shouting and hailing the government. And within 2 days, it collapsed again. So, and there have been some efforts where the government tried to bring in some dollars, either through borrowing and rest of them to pushing this effort, but it's not working. But the only way we can be able to do that is to make sure that we're exporting more and looking at other avenues of making revenue apart from petroleum products. We're talking of mineral resources, we're talking of agriculture, we're talking of tech, and a whole lot of that. But that is not even the main issue. The main issue is that when you look at our budget and see the performance of the budget year in, year out, you want to ask yourself, is this we really need all this ritual? Because at the end of it, the total performance of the budgets at times doesn't exceed more than 55%. And in fact, that would be the highest. I don't think we've exceeded in terms of implementation. So the basic thing is not just getting the budget on ground, but also seeing that it is realistically we'll be able to get it, achieve those implementation. Because if you now have a budget, because the budget is 100%, and you look at across board that implementation is just hovering between 45% and 50%, then you know that there's a problem.
Okay, staying on this budget, it says economic growth is 3.76%. Now, we understand the economic realities of Nigeria at the moment, but there's always the saying that you have to go through the drought season before the plenty comes in. So can we envisage this economic growth of 3.76 next year? Is that possible? Is that realistic? Is it something we can be hopeful for as Nigerians?
And even the oil benchmark that they put there is 77 naira per dollars per barrel.
Yeah.
I don't know if that also is realizable, because the growth of the economy will depend on that as well.
Yeah, for the benchmark on $77 per liter
barrel.
Per barrel, sorry, as it were, it is achievable because there have been instances that we had close to about $100 per barrel in the last few months. Especially if the war in Gaza between Israelis and Hamas continue as it were, it's going to affect the price of oil in the international market. Don't forget that also what is going on in Ukraine, between Ukraine. We practically forget, everybody has forgotten that Ukraine is at war with Russia. And yes, practically nobody says about that, and everybody's talking about Hamas and Israel. The war between Russia and Ukraine is still raging. And the international media, as well as local media, seems to have taken their eyes off that war. It is still raging. And once that war continues as it were, then it's going to affect the prices of oil on the international markets too, which would be supposed to be a kind of blessing for us. But the reverse effect is that once the prices of oil and the international market increases, that also affects our consumption, since we are an import-dependent country that import petroleum products from outside the country, and instead of having our refinery, so if the price is going up in the international market, then it also affects the price, the landing cost of petroleum, which also means that the prices of petroleum products is going to go up in Nigeria. The only solution to this is making sure that our refineries are working. And good enough, the government have given assurance that some of them will come on stream by December this year. Others will come up next year. Whether we make sure that this is working effectively, and also we believe that the so-called Dangote refineries, with all sense of modesty, using the word so-called, because several times we have told that Dangote refinery has a capacity of between 350,000 to about close to 500,000 per day. It's yet to come on stream. It was commissioned by the former president, and we thought that the petroleum will start rolling, and it has not. It was postponed to September, it has not. It has been moved to December, and I don't even know when to start. So if we have all that in place, then that is going to stabilize the cost of petroleum products in Nigeria. That will earn more. Then also, it will also enhance the economy because so many things depends on petroleum and energy. Then another aspect of it is also electricity. As it were now, we are not distributing more. We are not generating more. We are hovering between 4,000 and 5,000 megawatts as it were in Nigeria, for a population of close to about 230, as we say. then that is very, very, that is why you see that SMEs are dying, practically dying. And people cannot even afford to buy petroleum to run their generators, those doing sewing, those doing hairdressing. In other countries is the SMEs that drive the economy. And what's that sector there's a big problem. Even companies are shutting down. Major companies in Nigeria, manufacturers companies, because when you look at the price of diesel, for instance, it becomes a problem. In your studio there in Plus TV, you know how many times you use, how long you use generating set. The generating set is supposed to be a backup to the national electricity. But now, the electricity is just a backup to generating set. And you know the cost for a station like yours that run almost 24 hours in a day, you can imagine how much it costs you to be able to run. So those are the issues as it were. We're able to handle those areas, especially the power sector, effectively. Then there will be some level of economic growth.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move to the Daily Independent. And it's not the major headline there that I'm concerned with. You know, major headline there is saying how dispatch error landed Abuja-bound flight in Asaba. That one, the flight operators came out to say that it was not a mistake of the schedule. It was because there was bad weather and all that. People didn't believe that. But the investigation has been done and it has been found out, and I think appropriate sanctions are being given now. But I'm concerned with a smaller headline there by the site. Tinubu reappoints Mele Kyari as NNPCL CEO. Some people feel there is nothing new that will come to NNPC if we have the same sheriff still in town.
It's within the prerogative of the president to appoint whoever he wants. He's the appointing authority on issues like this, and so it's within his prerogative. He must have seen certain things in military that some of us have not seen. That is within him. He has not only appointed military, he has also appointed a new board. The chairman of that board is Chief, I think Akin something like that, and some other. So, but the fact remains that I know that we've unbonded the NNPC as it were, and it's supposed to be, as it were, supposed to be a private company. So I have not been able to look at that act that established the current NNPC Limited, as it were. But it is within the wisdom of the president, and they will think that it's doing well, all well and good. But the fact remains that there are so many stuff that need to be sorted out. I've talked about the issue of the refineries. That should be a priority for this new board. I've talked about the remnants to the federation account. That has been a problem in the past. Also, the National Assembly should also do continuously do its oversight on the on the NNPC as it were, and a corporation that thinks that it claims itself to be a law that makes money and spends such money without appropriation. Every single money made by NNPC needs to be appropriated and must be paid into the federation account. That has not been the issue that has not been the case in the past. I don't know how this present administration is going to handle that, and just as well so the National Assembly. Every single money made by NNPC, if the federal government is still is in charge as it were, then it has to be paid into the federation account. Then it is the National Assembly to now appropriate what to be spent, and not that they will spend whatever they want and not tell us that, this is what is left, this is what we use it, the salary return this and that. No, it cannot work that way. So that is my take on that.
Interesting. Let's move over to The Punch. So the headline here says, Tinubu presents budgets on Wednesday. Federal Executive Council okays $1 billion loan. I think we've already taken part of that in The Guardian. However, how about the $1 billion loan?
Well, we've talked about the budget and the $1 billion loan. Yes, he who goes borrowing goes sorrowing, and that is the fact. This government said that it will cut down in borrow so much that we are a country going and sorrowing. Let me tell you this fact that there's nothing wrong in borrowing. Several other countries of the world borrow. United States borrow, United Kingdom borrow, Germany, and so many other established countries. who, as they call themselves, first world countries, borrow as well. The same with Africa. But the difference between what theirs and yours is that what do they use the money they borrow, what do they use it for? That is the difference between them and ours. Theirs, they use it for capital projects, they use it for infrastructure development. None of that we've seen here. Our people, we borrow and use it lavishly to just take care of our lifestyles, paying salaries of civil servants, as I said earlier on, flying our government officials to other parts of the world, buying them 160 million SUVs. Exactly. Buying the presidential yacht, also they told us it belongs to the Navy, and all sorts of, having the children of those in power flying private jets and buying presidential jets. That is not what happened in other parts. So there is always a benchmark. This money should be tied to certain projects, and I just believe that periodically we must make sure, and that is why the National Assembly doesn't know how powerful it is. They don't know how powerful the powers given to it by the Nigerian people, because the National Assembly has the power of oversight on the executive. It's the executive that collects. The National Assembly should be able to benchmark this executive and make sure that they give periodical reports to Nigerians what they have done with the money that they borrow. The executive, ask them periodically, it could be quarterly, you borrowed $1 billion from the World Bank, and the IMF gave us $2 billion. What have you done with this? List it out. 10-kilometer road from Kano to Kaduna, list it out. From Enugu to Onitsha, list it out. We provided electricity within this season, list it out. We have provided the so number of it. Put a cost to them so that there will be some level of transparency within the system. But what happened? Our National Assembly is going to pay whatever they ask for. The Assembly give them. So when they get that, they go to bed. And when you look at even those that the head of National Assembly, they are just at the beck and call of the executive. After all, the senior president was practically appointed by the president, so with the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So what do you expect from them? So as I said again, there is nothing wrong in borrowing, but the fact remains that what we do. That is just on one part. The second part is that most of this money being borrowed, as it were, it's not going to be paid by the government. Some of this loan has been scheduled to about 20 years. That is it. Our children and grandchildren are going to pay this loan back. And that is what is going to happen. And also, let me state it a bit. It is not just when people say government. Who is government? Government is you and I. This money being borrowed will be paid by you and I indirectly, because the government is, who is government? Somebody was asked, who is government? Remember the former SGF was having, who is presidency? Who is presidency? The presidency is you and I. It is not Tinubu's money. It is not the governor's money. It's the money of Nigeria. They collected that money on behalf of Nigeria, and it is us Nigerians that are going to pay back that money. So we should be able to hold them accountable and make sure that this money are used for the purpose for which they are borrowed.
Okay. Well, I hope the money we borrow is put into good use. I really hope that, and it's not being lavished with yachts and SUVs and all the other things, that has been mentioned. I really hope we're looking for a way to put things in place for Nigerians and our kids to come, the future generation as well. But let's move over to politics a little bit. So one headline here says, "I'm best to succeed Obaseki," Shaibu declares. Now we know a lot of things have been going on with the camp of Obaseki and Shaibu in Edo State. However, what do you think about Shaibu? Right now he's even declared for governorship. So what do you think about everything that is happening in Edo State?
Yes, he took his right to the ring yesterday as it were, and he has decided to take people by the horn against the odds and against vice of his principal, Governor Obaseki. He is right. We have to ask ourselves, does he have the right? Yes, he has the right to contest for the governorship of Edo State, as it were, because the Constitution, 1999 Constitution, as amended, stipulates who is qualified to be a governor. So if you are qualified, then all well and good. So how his principal is going to accept it, or how this is going to play out, I think it's not left to be seen. Don't forget that he has been running a running battle which is governor, to the extent that this governor had to send him out of the government house and went and found an office in a remote part of Benin City for him to stay in. And at a point, he told us that they buried the hatchet, and he begged his principal, Dr. Paseke, and we thought that they were able to forgive themselves. But the way it is, it's just like it's the forgiveness or silence of the graveyard. The same thing is happening in Rivers State between Governor Fubara, and Yesu. But Philip Shaibu, as an Edo indigenous, has a right. But what we don't know is that under what political platform is he going to contest?
PDP.
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking. So if it's PDP, well, that means the PDP is already divided, because the governor himself also has a candidate. So we see that how they will find that out. And if it's going to be a fight within the PDP, as it were, then that also opens room for other parties to be able to take advantage of the crisis in the PDP.
The house divided.
Yes, that happened to them in the 2023 general election. That is why most people believe that what happened to the PDP was self-inflicted. When Atiku Abubakar and the 3G or 4, whatever, 5G or whatever got themselves, had those issues, and it was a house divided itself. So when you are going to war, and your army is already divided, there's always defeat staring you in the face. So, because if you look at the last general election, if you combine don't forget that also the Labour Party candidate, P2P, was also a member of PDP. If you look at the votes of both Atiku and that of P2P, it was more than that the president-elect had, Tinubu. So, if the PDP in Edo State decide to go to the market to dance naked, well and good. The people of Edo State have an option to be able to pick. There are so many people in the APC, in the Labour Party. You must have been seeing the advert of the former president of NBA, who has been advertising, who is also ready to fly the flag of the Labour Party in Edo State. But as I said, it is within his right to declare to the governor of Edo State. It is now. We now wait and see how this pans out between whether the initial threat of impeaching him by the State House of some Assembly will say true, or whether other is. But he has declared, and I think he has taken the first shot, as it were. Let's see how it pans out.
Okay, we do hope that all this political crisis all around the states will be resolved. Today, we know that Ondo lawmakers are meeting, and they may declare Yedetiwa acting governor. We don't know about that, but we pray that the outcome will be constitutional and a success. But this is where we'll have to wrap up on this segment today. We'd like to thank you, Chris, for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you very much, and have a nice day ahead.
You too. Okay. We're talking with Chris Kende Wandu, member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in the UK, who was talking to us from Lagos here. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll be looking at other issues. Stay with us.
Picture this. You're sitting at a table, ready to indulge in a mouth-watering meal. Stop. For many of us, it is hard to resist the temptation, especially when it comes to enjoying a juicy beef dish. But have you ever stopped to think about the impact of your food choices on the greater good? Our food choices have a great impact on others. The beef industry is one of the leading contributors to deforestation. As trees are cleared to make way for cattle ranching, it not only disrupts the delicate balance of ecosystems, but also contributes to climate change. We can make a difference with our choices. It does not mean we all have to become vegans overnight. Imagine enjoying fish and poultry a few times a week, indulging in beef just once a month, and filling our plates with plenty of plant-based goodness. Every little bit counts, and even small reductions in our intake can make a huge impact on the climate. By making smarter food choices, we're not only taking care of ourselves, but also the planet we call home. Remember, the choices we make today lead to a better tomorrow.
businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to feel. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take?
I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science.
Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory?
The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, Plus TV Africa, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
When you hear of drug abuse, what comes to your mind?
When we say drug abuse, it seems like something that is so
which is tomorrow. We have with us Gbolahan Oloijede, who's a public policy analyst. Good morning, Mr. Gbolahan.
Yeah, good morning. Nice to be on the program.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we have with us Tinubu, who's going to present the 2024 budget tomorrow. However, what are your impressions? I'm sure you've seen the figure. We're looking at about 27 trillion. What are your impressions on this budget?
Okay, on a general basis, our budgets are too tiny, but I'm not so sure it could have done better, because for you to post a bigger budget, you need to have been able to work on the revenue. But within the few months that he has been in the saddle, it may be too short to dramatically rev up the revenue to the kind of levels we would have loved to see. At 27.5 trillion naira, which is barely about $37 billion, we're just about 20% of South Africa's budget. And considering the fact that we are 200 million people, while South Africa is just 60 million, you can see how paltry our budget is. However, if we're dedicated to it and we execute with the right level of discipline, we might be able to begin to stabilize the economy and maybe pull us out eventually out of the economic quagmire over the next few years.
Okay, so do you think we'll be making revenues for this to be able to have more in our economy?
I didn't hear what you said about the revenue.
Do you think we'll be able to make more revenue, like with this budget? Because some people are calling it unambitious. And so for our revenue generating budgets that we say in quotes, would we be able to make that?
It's challenging, but we have to shoot for it. We have to at least aim high and work at it. The beauty of the Nigerian economy is the fact that the potential for doing well as far as revenue is concerned is there. So it's a matter of how much work we're willing to put in to make those assets that we have You know, we say we have the largest GDP in Africa. How come? I mean, this is a fundamental question we should just ask. How come that with the largest GDP in Africa, we are only able to generate 20% of what South Africa, which is a smaller economy, is generating for the federal government, for its own federal government? How come? So it means that we are not sweating the asset called Nigeria. We're not sweating that GDP to the level or the right way, the appropriate way to sweat it, to make it generate what we want it to generate. So that is the challenge right there. The opportunity is there. The economy has that capacity. We only need to drive it to make it happen. Fix all the distortions here and there. Get a bit more discipline. And it is possible. The revenue is possible. And I believe that if we set our mind to it, not only is that revenue possible, but it is possible over the years, say the next 3-4 years, to be able to do like 3 times what we're looking at on that budget.
Okay, let's look at the parameters on which this budget was even prepared. We have a deficit of 9 trillion naira, and the revenue projected is 18 trillion naira. But we also have oil production per day at 1.8 million barrels per day. $77 for oil per barrel, and then exchange rate 750 per dollar. Then we also have inflation 21.4% and economic growth at 3.6%. Let's look at these specifics. How realizable are these parameters that we've set our budget on?
Quite challenging, but not unsurmountable. For example, if you take the inflation figure of 21%, inflation is currently at 27.3 thereabout, I believe. And bookmakers are saying that the inflation figure may actually climb as high as 30% by the end of the year. So the question is, what is the basis for thinking that we can get 21% inflation rate in the budget year 2024? What has started to happen is that the rate of increase of inflation is slowing down. Yes, it is still increasing, but it is now increasing at a slower rate, which means that if we do the right things and sustain it, we can actually at some point flip that increase, first of all to a plateau, and then begin to have declines. What can we do to get to all those stages? A very good example of what I call a low-hanging fruit is in the food side of things. See, anytime you break down our inflation figure, you see that the food inflation is a huge component, is a major driver of the composite number. What that says is that if we can deal with food matters, we can moderate the composite inflation figure that we currently have. That is essentially the message that those numbers are passing through. So the next question then is, can we do something about food? And I believe we can. We have the land, we have the water, and we have all it takes to produce more in this country. The government, for example, had mentioned, we're going to cultivate 500,000 more hectares of land. And my question is, when are we going to start? If in July, when government said that, we have put corn in the ground, by now the corn has matured and is in the market. So it is in the place of beginning to implement that we can begin to see changes that could deliver 2024 the way we are projected. If we don't put in the work, it will just be a book.
Okay.
It will just be a bogus set of numbers if we don't put in the works, and we will not be able to get to where we ought to get. That is the reality. 750 naira exchange rate, we're not quite there, but is it possible to get there? The answer is yes. So what are those market distortions that we need to deal with? One, what are the supply issues that we can muster at this level? Because some of the supply issues for foreign exchange are a bit on the fiscal side, and they will take some time to be able to get there. But what are those ones that we can begin to deal with in the immediate? Those are the focus for 2024. So for me, it is challenging, it is quite ambitious, but it is not unsurmountable.
Yeah, but you know, we also have the production capacity of Nigeria. It was only in September that it rose to 1.3 million barrels per day. And this one is pegged at more than that, 1.8 million barrels per day. And like Roma said, is ambitious, and a lot of people have said it is ambitious. How do we plan to even get to 1.5 million barrels per day, let alone the 1.8 that is being pegged at?
Yeah, typically, when you're putting together budget numbers and you are, coming up with this assumption, it is believed that you already have an idea of where those things are going to be coming from. Are there certain wells that have been shut in for a certain period that are coming on stream right now? Are there certain difficulties we have faced in the past? For example, issues around oil theft that we are now overcoming. Let's be frank. This country had once produced 2.5 million barrels per day. So what that says to me is that it is not an impossibility. We just must be asking ourselves those critical questions. If you have produced 2.5 million, how did you get to 1.2? And what can you begin to do to rev up those production? Those oil that were disappearing in the pipelines, those things that we could have driven with technology that we are not driving, those engagements at the community levels where all these oil are disappearing, the involvement or possible complicity at the level of some security agencies, all those things together are things we can look at and begin to see how we can take this nation back to its 2.5 million barrels per day. But unless we're saying that the budget people have not considered all those things and they're just making projections, okay, let's just put 1.9. If that is what we have done in this budget, then we're just joking, and we will not even move near what we're talking about.
But as a person, have you seen, have you seen any signs? As a person, have you seen any signs that it is possible that there are things that have been put in place to realize the exchange rate, the capacity, the production capacity of oil, and to curb the inflation rate, so that we can realize whatever ambition we have in that budget? Have you seen any sign as a person?
Okay, for the foreign exchange rate, before listening to issues around scouting around or trying to get supply. So there is the issue of this $1 billion, which is part of this particular budget. There are discussions around another $3 billion. There is the issue of securitization of LNG dividends, which is also meant to produce certain dollars. So if you now take that and you situate it beside the recent pronouncement by the CBN governor at the CIBN dinner about discipline, about transparency, about working with the fiscal side of the economy, it appears as if there are efforts in the works. So we have to open our mind and and watch that space and see how that is translated to substance. As it is today, many of those things are still in the policy realm, but making them to manifest for us will involve a lot of work, and we're counting on CBN to be able to make that happen. On oil production, we've seen oil production went as far as 931,000 barrels, as low as that. That was, I believe, September 2022. But today, that same oil that was 931,000 barrels has gone up to 1.2 million barrels. So something obviously is going on. I believe that the rate at which we are improving is a bit too slow. I would have loved to see something something faster, but there is no doubt that we are beginning to grow the production. We need to sustain it, and whatever impediment that is still left in that space to deal with, to take it from that 1.2, 1.3 and rev it up to 1.5, and possibly even further. We need to continue to put efforts in it. But for now, like you rightly said, it remains very ambitious. That we will get there will depend on the work that we're willing to put in and ready to put in, and the political will to make it happen. Is it surmountable? My take will be all these challenges are surmountable.
Okay, so I know you talked about food production earlier. However, some people can argue that we have food production to a certain level, but the reason for the inflation rate is other factors such as transportation, power, because these farmers, they need certain things, certain machinery as well, and they have to transport these food items from wherever their farm is to the cities where they're being sold. So don't you think there should be some things that are being done for them to enable these farmers to be able to sell at a cheaper rate, and then we, the citizens, can also afford these things and the inflation rates can come down a little bit?
Yes, you're right in the money right there. The interesting thing is that it is not as if government itself is not aware by virtue of some things it has said. I remember that in that July speech, government was talking about rural roads as part of the infrastructure reform that we need in the economy. Well, what does rural roads, what do? They connect the center of production to the market. So when food are produced where they are produced, they can be, foods are not produced on Marina or in Maryland or Wipan. They are produced somewhere, in some places that are remote. They need to be moved to the market. But where the connection between these two centers is not smooth, then we have a problem. So that is where the rural infrastructure comes in. It would be nice to be able to dig deep into the budget to see how government plan to address issues of rural roads in the current budget, because a lot of farm produce in the midst of what we are talking about gets rotten. In certain product categories, it is as high as 40% of the entire thing that the farmers produce gets bad, because there are no ways to move them to the centers of consumption, or there are storage facility problems. All those things are there. So if we look in the budget today, are we going to be able to see spending or initiatives in that direction? Or is the government going to drive the private sector to lead in this initiative? And how? Those are very important. Otherwise, we will not be able to kill, because the food matter, of course, security is number one. Then what you have just mentioned now is critical. Without that proper connection to the consumption center, we will still be hungry in this country.
Yes, as the president presents the budget tomorrow, the Federal Executive Council, on the other hand, has approved 1 billion naira loan. And we're wondering, a government that said that they will not borrow at all is now mulling the idea of 1 billion naira loan. And we're just wondering how we'll fare next year.
Well, I don't think the issue of not borrow at all is a realistic comment, considering where we are. We will borrow, but we will have to borrow with decency, with the realization that we are already in a huge hole. And when you are in a hole, at least the first thing you should do is to stop digging. But under the current circumstances, there will still be need for certain borrowing. The discipline that must follow that borrowing, the kind of borrowing it has to be heavy concessionary loans. And what we will put the loan to, how are we going to use it, is much more important. So I do not foresee a situation in which we say we will not borrow. No, we should cut down on our borrowing. We should be disciplined about whatever we borrow. But to say we will not borrow is unrealistic from a finance perspective, considering where we are right now.
Okay, I think that's where we'll have to drop it this morning. We'd like to thank you, Gbolahan, for coming on the show and sharing your thoughts with us. We'll wish you a happy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Have a lovely day, sir.
All right, we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll be looking at our next hot topic. Please stay with us.
do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
Hesse Designs is a fashion accessory label that specializes in the design and creation of handcrafted bags and footwear. I knew I was going to do something in fashion. I didn't know what exactly it was going to be, but I knew I would be in fashion. If it used to be the cleaner in fashion, whatever, but I have to be in fashion. When we started off with just strictly bag making. But then you get people say, oh, can I get a matching shoe? And then over time, people say, oh, I would like to give my boyfriend a wallet, but I want it with Ankara or something. So over time, we had to listen to our customers and infuse their ideas into our brand. Okay, we wanted something with the African touch, with the Nigerian feel. We make leather bags. But if I'm making a leather bag and I put it in a store, if you don't know Hesse Designs is Nigerian, you probably think it's a foreign bag. So what's the point of promoting something that is not, if you look at, you can't link it to Africa, you can't link it to Nigeria. Wanted something to promote Africa, wanted something to promote Nigeria. We also want to empower our artisans here. So that's why we keep our content local, raw materials local, production local. We still get a lot of people from around the world ordering from our website. So I believe it's because of what we've built, the brand we've built over time that still speaks for us. In the last 3 years, we've done over 10,000 items. We've sold over 10,000 items to both corporate clients, retail clients, and wholesale clients.
Okay.
It's still the breakfast on Plus TV Africa, and we're glad to know that you're still there and watching us. And right now, we're going to look at the fact that lawmakers are pushing for 32 more federal universities. 32, that's almost like the same number of states that we have in our country. We have management consultant, international development advisor for Lagos State in the person of Oludare Akinlaja joining us this morning. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Morning to have me.
Okay, we have so many universities that ASU and CONUA are complaining that they are underfunded. Now the lawmakers want 32 more. Do you think this is a solution to our educational problem, or it is going to worsen?
So I had the news the other day, and I wondered what the intention was. But I've been around development for a while, and I understand. So what is happening is that we're solving a problem, and we're trying to build on a faulty foundation. Okay. So what is happening is that the universities are not sufficient, okay, to handle the number of young people that finish, that come out of secondary school. That's a problem. Hey, that's the question they should be asking. Instead of building more universities. I understand we need more universities, but this is not the time for more universities. You are complaining the university lectures are not enough, yet you want to do more universities. But this is the truth. If you look at those universities, you will find out that most of the lawmakers want those universities situated in their constituencies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have some statistics here. So as of right now, Nigeria has a total of 52 federal universities, and 32 more will make it 84. However, right now in Nigeria, we have about 514 universities, some of which are private universities at 262. We have state universities at 147. We have federal universities at 52. Okay, 63 states, 147 private universities, which sums up at 262. Now we have colleges of health, which is 70, and private 17. The total number is 514. Now, if we add another 32, it will be 546 universities in Nigeria. Do we need that much universities?
Oh yes, we do. With respect to our population, if you go to nations that are smaller, they have much more universities. So, like I said, I'm not sure the challenge is the number of universities, but the challenge is the timing and the design of our already existing educational system. So our already existing educational system, it does not need more universities, as it were, with its current design. If we don't adjust that design, make universities more productive and more autonomous, then we will just be bringing more universities that will go through the same already existing funnel that is dysfunctional. So this is the truth. If we don't properly understand what our challenges are, we would not be able to come up with good solutions. So the challenge is, okay, we need more universities, but can you make the already universities more functional? So we solve a problem 1 point at a time. 1 point at a time. I'm not just trying to rush through and put more pressures. The truth, the universities are not sufficient, but this is not the right time to add more universities. Let's make the ones we already have very functional and productive before we think of adding more universities.
Okay, we're talking about the federal universities here, and it also relates to the educational system as it is. Children who come out from secondary schools, like you mentioned earlier, don't always need to go to a federal university, but they need to go to a university. And you've said that the number in Nigeria is so much that 500 and something is not even sufficient. Now, trying to find a solution to accommodate all the people that graduate from secondary school, will it be your advice that if the federal government cannot fund the existing ones, they should not have universities, but they should make it easier for people who want to establish the private sector to come into the educational system and establish more universities? Do you think that will be part of the solution to the educational problem, or infrastructural problem that we have in the educational system?
Well, based off data, I would say they should allow more people drive the private institutions, because if you look at the already available private universities and the solution it is given, okay, some private universities are already universities. Now, many years ago, not many years, in 2018 here, we worked on some projects to bring in a private university, and I must tell you, the requirements are incredulous. I mean, my use of word. They are incredulous. A particular number of acreage of land, the amount of money you must have. So it's actually difficult for private institutions to get it. And I understand, because sometimes running a university is not the same as running a daycare center or a secondary school. It's much more than that. The investment is massive, and you will require a bit more standardization, so you don't allow every Tom, Dick, and Harry to get into space. But I think it's too complex, and they should try to minimize the requirements so they can allow more private institutions enter into it. I need to add this also, and that is that universities are really set up because of this bias of the environment we're in, where everybody wants to go to a university. Now, that's a discussion for another day. But I think we also need to start making our monotechnics and polytechnics also viable, start making them more effective, start making them also have the capacity to train and raise people that will be competent individuals in the society. I know that's a different argument from the conversation we're having now, but we need to start looking at that. So the pressure is not always on universities. What's happening to our Federal College of Technology, what's happening to our polytechnics, and what's happening to all of that? Those two must become viable to be able to help us manage the population we're dealing with.
All right, talking about investment in these universities, the president is going to be presenting the 2024 budget tomorrow. However, in that budget, we have a loan of $1 billion. Now, if we're saying we have to create more universities, isn't that going to take a chunk of the loans that we're getting?
So now, this argument has been constantly, if only we can reduce the amount of wastages and the things we're wasting money on, and divert that investment into the things that really, really matter in our environment. I understand that maybe we were not making as much money as we should be making, but the truth is the money we even have available, we are not properly distributing this into the required places that it is meant to go into. So I think one of the things we must concentrate on is redistributing what we already have. If you look at the way we waste, so much wastage taking place, you will know that if we redirect some of our investments, I think some of these universities will become a bit more buoyant and a bit more self-sustained. Because if you look at it, for education is not cheap. You need investment into education, the learning environment, how to properly remunerate lecturers and teachers, making it an environment of research and development needs a lot of investment. And until we start to think of how we can make it either self-sustaining or pumping investment into it by blocking wastages and redirecting money into the places that matter, we will just keep prolonging the days where we will have an eventual point of chaos at some point.
All right. So according to you, you've said we need these universities, we need more universities. But here's my thought. Do you think the lawmakers should be talking about more universities? How about these students that go to these universities and they come out without jobs? Shouldn't we be looking at job creation instead of more universities? Because now you're creating more universities, more students are going into this school. So imagine the influx of students that go on a yearly basis. Let's peg it at maybe 10 million. Now you're creating 32 more universities. Let's say that would now make it about 15 million. They come out, go for their youth service, and then there are no jobs. Shouldn't the lawmakers be looking at creating jobs for these students than creating more universities at this time?
I agree with you, and that's why I agree with you, and that's why I said it's a function of timing. But the truth is, most of our universities are already massively congested. So if you go to certain universities, the classes are maybe the 250 to 1, 125 to 1, which does not even suit international standards. Okay, so more universities do not necessarily mean more people. It might just mean the redistribution of people that already exist in those universities. But I agree with you that what we should be having conversations about is not even just job creation. That's even at the end of the funnel. Conversations we should be having is even curriculum content. What are these people learning in the universities? What kind of courses are we now designing in our universities? Most of these courses are absolutely obsolete. Some schools, you can't believe that in Nigerian universities, we're not even looking at maybe fintech or digital media, or things that are happening. Okay, so curriculum is a very important part of it. We're not even looking at that. So that's why I mentioned earlier that the problem is not, and it's basic design thinking. You are trying to solve a problem that you should put off till later now. And there are many reasons behind that federal universities being pushed at this point. Like I said, if you look at those federal universities, most of them are domiciled in certain constituencies. So for most people, it's really like a constituency project, and they're not thinking about the long-term effect of most of these decisions. So I agree with you that we should be looking at curriculum, we should be looking at how do we drive internships, we should be looking at what are these children learning, where are they going to go to. Those are the things we should be looking at now. And I agree with you, but that doesn't negate the fact that we need more universities. Problem is timing and implementation strategy.
Okay, well, you said the first thing is to look at the ones that are already existing and see how it can be funded better. Do you think with improved infrastructure within the universities that we have, we can take more students and have better quality education?
So, certain universities were built for certain capacity, and this is what long-term thinking does. Now, if more investment is made, obviously there will be more infrastructure. So there can be a level of there can be some improved level of learning in these universities, okay? Lecturers, more quality lecturers are properly excited with their jobs. We have more equipment to learn, more research is being done. Then we can because the problems don't stop. You keep iterating, you keep moving from one level to another. As you solve one, another opens up. So you see, you keep moving from one level to another. Because when you are done building infrastructure in this particular university, another thing can be a function of space. Okay, can this university handle the numbers that are coming in? So you set up more. So so it's a continuum. You see, and that's why it's design thinking. We keep iterating from level to level. So we can't just say if you do this, we'll solve all the problems at this instance and we will no longer have problems. But I agree with you that if you develop the infrastructure as at today, look at the current universities we have, change, and I keep hammering on this, work on the curriculum of the existing universities to position children for the 21st century and its development and advancement. Then you can now start talking of more universities.
Another thought that I have is in yesterday's papers, it was said that a lot of lecturers are moving abroad. So what are the resources we have for people who are supposed to give knowledge to these students?
Yeah, so this remuneration issue is, of course, is a long conversation with the function of labor, function of what the standard salaries of federal government workers are. You see, so that's you see, that's why I said there's a multi-level layer to these conversations. But I think one of the things that's important is that lecturers need to start having a sense of fulfillment, okay, with the jobs that they do. All right. The reason why they go to the Western world, for instance, and you see, if you do a comparative analysis, academicians in the Western world will tell you that in comparative analysis to other jobs, they are still being paid low. Okay, but the difference is they have a social system. Okay, they can get a house with mortgage, for instance. They can buy a car, mortgage. They can, so there are other things that serve as pushing effects, okay, around them, which we don't have in this country. The lecturer is going to go to the same car shop as you who is in private sector. The lecturer is going to have to pay his rent for 1 year stretch. Okay, so the conditions are the same for everybody. There's no sort of social system, that is creating a pushing effect for these lecturers in spite of their remuneration. So you see, you will always have that challenge, and that's what is making the flight. So people are, even most of the lecturers who are even relocated, some of them are not even continuing in academics. They just want to be out of the fray where they feel they can build a future for themselves. So I think that's the most important. Nigeria needs to start developing a social sort of system for people, not in certain fields. Of course, everybody has to benefit from it. Of course, you in the studio now, imagine if you could buy your house and pay over 1 year or 2 years, or you can get a big car.
That would be amazing.
Okay, well, instead of building new universities, could it be something to be considered that the existing ones, if they are put in order as it is, they have more satellite campuses that will take more students? Will that be a good proposal?
Now, so the challenge with satellite campuses, we used to have satellite campuses in Nigeria, and the challenge was actually maintaining standard. It's like franchise. You know how you can go to different eateries. They are the same eateries, but you feel that the food tastes different. Okay, and that's the challenge with satellite campuses. I think that the universities just wanted to be able to have some level of control over how people learn. Wanted to be able to standardize the learning, and that was why satellite campuses were affected a bit. So I think I'll understand why they try to limit satellite campuses, because the danger is, will you be able to maintain the same quality of learning across the board? Because on a satellite campus, you might not have the administrative monitoring that happens when you are on the campus of the university site.
So what is the role of tech in all of this? Because in other countries, for instance, the UK, there's distance learning, right? In the US as well, in Canada, there's distance learning, so you can actually learn online. Shouldn't Nigeria be thinking of other means, such as, using tech to our own, just to utilize tech to our own advantage, and just say, okay, we know that we have this amount of students that are not able to go into these universities because we do not have enough. However, we're creating another avenue for them to still be able to learn, for them to still be able to earn a degree, and so they can learn online at the comfort of their own homes, and we'll still have lecturers and counselors and everyone who can monitor their progress.
I agree with you, but I hope you know that your constitution does not allow distance learning for undergraduates. It's a constitutional issue. So that brings the federal lawmakers to be looking at, okay?
But that's why I'm asking, that shouldn't we be looking at that? And even in the Constitution, yes, we should be able to move that way, because the Constitution was created at some point. However, nothing is cast on stone. You should still be able to move certain things, be fluid. Yes, that's the word, be fluid with the Constitution and say, okay, this is where the world is moving into right now. The world has moved to tech. That's where we are right now. No matter how you look at it, it is still what it is. So we should be able to move in the Constitution and say, let us allow this thing, because at the end of the day, it's for our own advantage.
Even home learning.
That's distance learning. Homeschooling.
But even globally, not everybody does online learning. And that's a business decision. Okay, that's a business decision, and I'll tell you why it's a business decision. So if I'm learning distance learning, and I'll have to pay $5,000, for instance, because it's distance learning. Okay, if I was to be on campus, maybe I'll be paying $16,000. Okay, so even the Western world, not all the costs are distance learning. If you notice, even the Western world, they will usually do postgraduates. You have more postgraduate distance learning courses.
Because they understand that you would have your jobs and you're doing other things, so you need to be able to infuse both of them.
Yeah, but why can't we have that? Why can't we have that? Because the postgraduates are still struggling for space in our regular universities.
We have. So I know I don't know if I can mention the name of a university. It doesn't look like I'm advertising them, but I know
a university.
One university who is doing its MBA remotely. Okay, it's in another part of Nigeria. Is doing its MBA remotely. But of course, I agree with you that most postgraduate studies can actually be done online. We don't really always have to go to these environments. And of course, it's also because of the control mechanism of our African environment. Okay, must you see everybody? You know, it's until I see you, I can. You know, it's funny.
It's a mindset
thing. Yeah, it's a funny psychology. Yeah, it's a psychological thing. But I think I agree with you that if we do more postgraduate studies remotely, it will even create spaces on the campus for the undergraduate students.
Exactly.
Most of the infrastructure, you know, and let loose most of the schools. So yes, I agree with you, and I think the lawmakers. So, for instance, that's what the lawmakers should be looking out for instead of thinking of building more universities. How do we decongest? How do we? For instance, I know a private university that is trying to say, you know what, from 300 level to 400 level, can we start taking your courses remotely and leave the campuses for 100 and 200 level students? Yeah, but guess what? You're going to have another problem. Do you need as much lecturers to do distant learning as physical learning?
I think I might have a solution to that. So most distance learning courses, most times they create videos. You have videos. That's how you learn, and it's done one time.
I thought you were going to say I'm going to use AI.
There's AI as well.
It's technology. It's technology. Sorry?
You only for a course, only one lecturer can do that. The problem with that is that you are going to move people out of job, then you face ASU again.
Voila.
Where do we end with?
Okay, well, if we talk about the problems of Nigeria, and especially the education or the educational system in Nigeria, we might spend days here talking about it. Like you said, it's multifaceted. It's layer upon layer. And so when we're trying to dissect every item, we might not finish from here. So we'll drop the ball here right now today on this topic. Would like to thank you so much for coming on the program this morning and bearing your thoughts to us.
Thank you, Oluwadari.
Okay, thank you.
We've been talking with Oludari Akinlaja, management consultant and international development advisor here in Lagos State. We were talking about the fact that the lawmakers are requesting for 32 more universities. Is it necessary or is it not? Yes, it's necessary, but there are so many layers that we have to surmount before we can get to that point, according to his advice. And this eventually is where we wrap it up on the show this morning. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Let's do it again tomorrow.
My name is Remy Paulson. Have a good day.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
When you hear of drug abuse, what comes to your mind?
When we say drug abuse, it seems like something that is so distant, but it's happening every day in our homes.
1 in every 4.
Regardless, the Anti-Drug Abuse Show, airing on Plus TV Africa every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Cars have become a very important part of our everyday modern lives, mainly for transportation and for a few, a display of wealth, a show of luxury. Cars are a way to keep history, a nostalgic reminder of our past lives, and this is what this classic car show, which recently held in Lagos, achieved. Car lovers from different parts of the country attended, and owners showed off their vintage cars. Some of the car owners tell us of how their love for vintage cars began.
This is a 1966 Mustang Shelby Cobra, and I've had it for about 7 years now. So it was handed over. So I had a family who had it for 50 plus years. So they wanted to sell it, and I got it from them. When you drive these cars, you have to be attentive to what you're doing. When you drive a car that you can put a cruise control, you tend to get reckless. Now you have to be very attentive because you have to be sure what you're doing. You have to be in control to drive the car versus I can push a button and the car drives by itself. So, but I've always been into them. I mean, I drive the newer ones, but I've always wanted something like this. I've always had them. I can work on them myself if I wanted to. Like change the oils, change the oil, change the plugs. I can do that because they're relatively easy to do.
That's cars from the day my father taught me how to drive. And in fact, that's one of the inspirations for my own car, which is a classic Mercedes 2.6 liter 190E. So, yeah. So that's really from driving, learning how to drive and spending time with my father on Father's Day. I think it's important as any woman, if a car breaks down, you must know your water levels, you must know the engine is overheating, you must know your tire pressures, you must know what kind of fuel you are having, the type of oil as well. So those things are quite important. I was able to listen to the engine, car, things like that.
I generally liked cars as a whole from when I was young, and I think there's something about classic cars that's just of a particular look, of a particular date, for me in particular, that is so attractive. Well, you know that we have a lot of people who have an interest in vintage cars, and this is why we have the club. So essentially, it is Nigeria, but look at the turnout today. And we have members that didn't come today with their cars. So there's quite a following. There are quite people passionate about classic cars.
The first car I ever drove was my dad's Volvo from the 70s.
Good morning. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. This is the news brief. The Nigerian government has approved 27.5 trillion naira for the 2024 appropriation bill, according to Minister of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu. The medium-term expenditure framework MTEF, which was approved by the National Assembly, has been reviewed, resulting in a target revenue of 18 trillion naira for the next fiscal year. The Council has also reviewed the MTEF, which has an exchange rate of 750 naira to a dollar and a crude oil benchmark of $73 to improve revenue.
Mr. President's determination to find more money to fund our priorities, today the Federal Executive Council further revised the medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal policy framework. And two of the important decisions was to use an exchange rate of 750 naira to a dollar, and also a benchmark crude oil reference price of $77.96, meaning $4 more than the earlier approval. Equally, the Federal Executive Council approved the 2024 Appropriation Bill and the presentation of such to the National Assembly by His Excellency, Mr. President. The bill has an aggregate expenditure of 27 trillion 500 billion. The forecast revenue is now 18.32 trillion, which is higher than the 2023 revenues, including that provided in the two supplementary budgets. Equally and commendably, the deficit is lower than that of 2020.
President Bola Tinubu will present his first budget to the joint session of the National Assembly in Abuja on Wednesday. The presentation of the budget was disclosed in a memo by the Secretary of Human Resources and Staff Development, Shuaibu Maina Berman, which was cited by the Daily Post correspondent in Abuja. The memo, which was addressed to the clerk to the National Assembly and other management staff, indicated that President Tinubu will make the presentation on Wednesday, November 29, 2023, at the time yet to be disclosed. Part of the memo reads, and I quote, "I am directed to inform you that the 2024 budget would be presented by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria at the joint session of the Senate and the House of Representatives on Wednesday." End of quote. While directing strict compliance, the memo noted that only accredited National Assembly staff and non-staff only shall be allowed entry. Philip Shuaibu, Deputy Governor of Edo, has officially announced his intention to run for the governorship election in the state. Shuaibu officially announced his intention in a televised announcement on Monday. The Edo governorship election is slated for September 21, 2024. Shuaibu said he will be competing for the Edo governorship ticket on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, PDP.
You did not just call me Mr. Constituency Project for nothing. In my time as a legislator, I delivered 49 constituency projects at the state level and 13 solid constituency projects within the short stint I had at the federal level. I fought the good fight for you, my people. Along the way, suffered humiliation, enjoyed many moments of victory, but I am thankful in all things. Have been bruised, but not crushed. Persecuted, but not abandoned. After all, I be original Edo son. 100% homeboy. This is why today I stand before you with great conviction and resolve, as I declare my intention to run for the office of the governor of Edo State under the platform of the People's Democratic Party in the upcoming 2024 election. And I am confident that with your support, we can take Edo State to even greater heights.
Meanwhile, as Edo State prepares for the 2024 governorship election, the Labour Party governorship aspirant, Comrade Egosa Ugbo, has called Governor Godwin Obaseki-led government 25% of total performance in the past 7 years in office. Egosa Ugbo made this statement in an interview with our Asaba correspondent Apomejero Friday in Benin City, the state capital. Ugbo said Edo people are not enjoying the present leadership of Governor Godwin Obaseki, as his leadership system is neither transparent nor favorable to Edo people who are being overtaxed by the government agencies across the 18 local government areas of the state. Ugbo promised to deliver good governance to people of Edo State and paying bursary to students of secondary and higher institutions across the state.
How well have this governor done? For me, if I want to score him, I will score him 25%, which is not a pass mark. You have not been able to affect the masses of the people. Our people are not enjoying governance in the state. They are overtaxed. You go to our market, you see the way they are suffering. Our agenda is simple: education. We are going to make sure our Edo children get good education. Those in the higher institutions are going to enjoy bursary and scholarship, secondary and university from secondary to university level.
Comrade Ugbo further said he understands people's needs and pain and is prepared to set them free.
I understand what my people needs. I understand the plight and the cry of my people. We are going to develop agriculture, modern agriculture, transportation for our people. We are not going to import vehicles from Japan, Japanese-made vehicle or Chinese-made vehicle. We are going to our source here. Our market women, you see today, our market is an eyesore. Go to any market in Edo State, you will laugh. You see that our people are really suffering. There is no human being, man or woman, that will come to a market and see the environment is clean, that will not be happy to pay a stipend for what they are saying. You go to the market, it's smelling. My government, by the grace of God and our ancestors, is going to change, turn all those things around.
The Court of Appeal in Abuja has dismissed the Speaker of the Kaduna State House of Assembly, Honorable Yusuf Dahiru Liman, representing the All Progressives Congress APC. The court also ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC to withdraw Liman's certificate of return and conduct fresh elections in 5 polling units. The PDP candidate Solomon Katuka filed a petition challenging Liman's election, claiming there were irregularities. The tribunal had nullified Liman's election and ordered a rerun in 42 polling units in 5 wards. However, the Speaker, APC, and INEC appealed against the tribunal's judgment, and Katuka filed a cross-appeal for an outright declaration. The Nigerian Youths in Politics, NYP, has claimed that the sacking of Abba Yusuf as governor of Kano by the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, was self-inflicted. The Court of Appeal in Abuja affirmed the verdict, stating that NNPP breached the constitution by sponsoring Yusuf, who was not a party member at the time of the election. The NYP's president, Magaji Alidu, criticized the party and its candidate for neglecting electoral law and urged politicians to avoid blackmailing courts when a verdict does not favor them.
Contrary to the ongoing bastardization of the Nigerian judiciary by some aggrieved persons who lost at the tribunal and the appeal court as a result of non-compliance with the Electoral Act 2022, as amended, we wish to state that the court did not act ultra vires when it held that Engineer Abba Kabiru Yusuf was not a member of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, as of the time the party sponsored him as the governorship candidate of Kano State. As young people in politics, we shall continue to encourage the judiciary not to be intimidated by the sponsored blackmail against it. The larger population of Nigerians are happy with the judgment being delivered so far and are proud of the commitment of the judiciary to ensure even democracy in our dear country. The Supreme Court is their target. They are castigating the appeal court justices to blackmail the honorable justice of the Supreme Court to subject justice. Democracy has come of age, and the judiciary is not a cash and carry as the Attorney General of Kano.
The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, has defended President Bola Tinubu's administration against allegation of blackmail over recent judicial pronouncements from electoral disputes. Fagbemi said the federal government would not shield errant judges found guilty of misconduct and that any allegations against law court verdicts must be accompanied by tangible evidence. He warned against throwing caution due to electoral defeats in court and emphasized that judicial verdicts are always based on facts presented before jurists hear a matter.
One thing about justice is that the man who wins will say, will praise the judiciary, will praise the judges. The man who lost will never agree that he has lost fairly unless you give him judgment. So, unless you are able to bring forth concrete evidence, I will not, succumb to what I will call blackmail, because blackmail it is. If you have evidence, nobody will shield an erring judge. Bring it to the fore. Say it out. But the mere fact that you lost, you didn't win, shouldn't make you, throw caution to the wind. It doesn't work like that. You wanted to win, you put your facts there. The judge said it is not the position. You tried it on appeal, you lost. In the Supreme Court, you lost. I think that even apart from law, morality also demands that you take it as it is. I am not saying that judges cannot be wrong, because they are human beings. If they are wrong and it is not as a result of bribery or corruption, yes, that's fine. But if you want to prove corruption, you know the way to prove it.
The Oba of Benin, Omonoba Nnedo Okuapolopolo Ewuare II, has called on all Nigerians to support the administration of President Bola Tinubu, as well as live in peace with one another. The Oba spoke during a courtesy call on Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu at Lagos House Marina. He noted that the victory of Tinubu at the 2023 presidential poll showed that God ordained him to rule the country. Oba Nnedo Okuapolopolo Ewuare II harped on the need for peaceful coexistence in order to achieve sustainable development in all areas of the nation's economy.
If Nigeria were to break up today, it would be like Banana Republic. Nigeria is big because we are together. When they say the biggest country in Africa, because it's Nigeria, it's because the way we are. So it's good to remain like this, but iron out differences that we have. Everywhere they have differences. Let's iron out our own and remain the same, learn to live together. Learn to live together like one big family.
The Oba of Benin, who congratulated Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on his re-election, commended the giant strides of the governor in Lagos and charged him not to rest on his oars to achieve greater heights in his second term in office. Sanwo-Olu, who eulogized the Oba of Benin for distinguishing himself among the traditional rulers, said his protection of culture and promotion of traditional values have earned him maximum respect across the country.
There was no need for always running to courts and everything. I hope Nigeria will be able to come up with a system whereby issues will be resolved than dragging whenever general elections or presidential elections, are carried out. It's always dragging, and things we were hearing, we were not happy about. Whether it's true, whether not true, but president, he's my in-law. So thank you very much, and we thank God for your also successful election. We pray for you. We pray you be successful in tenure. Your cabinet will do well for us.
I want to say to you, sir, that we are beginning to see some of his interventions. Just last week, we saw another quarter of GDP growth in the country, right? Where the GDP growth has improved from what it was the last 1 and 2 quarters. The third quarter looks very, very well, but we said to him that he still has to do a lot more. So we're believing that with him at the helm of affairs, and like you said, sir, he has clear sight to govern well, and I will believe that he will do a good job. For us here in Lagos, we're the shoulder and the neck of the country, and we'll continue to ensure that Lagos remain home to a lot of people.
The Diocese of Lagos Anglican Communion has inducted Venerable Babatunde Adeleke Oduore, family members and well-wishers in attendance. Our correspondent, Paul George, reports.
Melodious rendition of hymns filters the church hall as the congregation, led by the choir, was in a joyous mood. Venerable Babatunde Adeleke Oduwole, clad in white robe, is ushered in to take his declaration of assent as the vicar and archdeacon of Church of Resurrection. The anointed clergyman was excited to be in the presence of God while performing the induction rituals. Venerable Oduwole said he is ready to hit the ground running as he explains the vicar's role in the church.
Well, I must say that I'm very excited. I'm enthused, getting ready to hit the ground immediately. It's a day we had looked forward to. Institution, induction, and installation. It is a customary and ancient custom of thanking God for choosing those such personalities. They serve as the eye of the bishop. And so we call them Oculus Episcopus, meaning the eye of the bishop.
He thanks God and says his vicarship is all the Lord's doing. Meanwhile, the former Deputy Governor of Lagos State and Senior Special Assistant to President Bola Tinubu on Sustainable Development Goals, Adejoke Orelope Adefudiri, commended the man of God's selflessness. She describes him as one who is reliable.
In addition to that, I'm also being instituted as the vicar of the Church of the Resurrection 1004 Estate here in Victoria Land. To God be the glory. I'm excited. I'm really happy. I know that God has done it, and he who has called us will back us up. He will enshrine his word in our heart and grant us miraculous feats within the time we are going to spend here in Jesus' name.
I've known him for 12 years as a vicar and as a priest in the Diocese of Lagos, Lagos Diocese. He's a man of God that that we can rely on in terms of prayer, in terms of counseling and motivation. Wishing him all the best. God will bless his ministry. God will give him more strength, more grace, and on a daily basis, God will minister to him.
Some church members showered encomiums on him.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
In the period of time that we have interacted, he's been a very pleasant personality. He's been an exciting person to be with. It's just God's gift to us as a church. I pray for him every day, and I ask that the Lord will continue to equip him with grace, with his spirit, with more of his wisdom, so that he's able to carry the church of Jesus Christ.
Everything is working perfectly the way God wanted it. He was a curate in this place before, and he rose to be a venerable, and he was brought back. So I say it is to the glory of God. I'm happy for him, and I congratulate him. It shall continuously be well with him and his family in Jesus' name.
The ceremony was brought to a close as the guests were treated to a cocktail party. Paul George, Plus TV News.
From other parts of Africa, Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio announced on Sunday evening that calm has been restored after a day of armed clashes in Freetown, which he portrayed as an attempt to destabilize the state. Most of the perpetrators, according to him, have been arrested. The day saw unknown assailants attempting to force their way into a military arsenal in Freetown, confronting security forces in various parts of the capital and freeing numerous prisoners from jail. Authorities have imposed a nationwide curfew until further notice. Most of the leaders are said to have been arrested and will be held accountable, according to Mr. Bio in a brief statement without providing further details.
Most of the leaders have been arrested. Security operations and investigations are ongoing. We will ensure that those responsible are held accountable through due process. In the early hours of this morning, there was a breach of security at the military barracks at Wilberforce in Freetown. Some individuals attacked the military armory and other locations in Freetown, including Pademba Road Correctional Center. I call on all political leaders traditional leaders, civil society, and citizens across the region to continue working to preserve the peace of our nation.
Outside Africa, a truce between Israel and Hamas in the Gaza Strip will be extended by 2 days. The Palestinian group and mediator Qatar said on Monday, opening the way for further releases of hostages and prisoners. With just hours to go before the humanitarian pause was to end early Tuesday, Hamas said that an agreement had been reached to prolong it by 48 hours under the existing terms. There was no immediate confirmation from the Israeli side of the extension, which was nevertheless hailed by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres as a glimpse of hope and humanity in the middle of the darkness of war. Qatar, with support of the United States and Egypt, has been engaged in intense negotiations to establish and prolong the truce in Gaza. Hamas, which runs Gaza and triggered the war when its militants made an unprecedented attack on southern Israel last month, said it was drawing up a new list of hostages for release. Late Monday, on the last day of the initial 4-day truce, Israel's military and 11 hostages were now in Israeli territory. Qatar said the 11 Israelis would be freed in exchange for 33 Palestinian prisoners, most of whom it said are minors. The freed Israelis are dual nationals of France, Germany, and Argentina, Qatar added. In business news, Nigeria's crude oil production, including condensate, rose year-on-year by 30% to 1.6 million barrels per day in October 2023 from 1.2 million barrels per day recorded in the corresponding period of 2022. But on a month-on-month basis, the nation's oil output dropped marginally by 0.7% to 1.562 million barrels per day in October 2023 from 1.572 million barrels per day in the preceding month of September 2023. A closer check on the production figures showed that the nation's output, including condensate, stood at 1.5 million barrels per day in January 2023, dropped to 1.3 million barrels per day in April, before climbing to 1.6 million barrels per day in September, apparently the highest so far in 2023. However, despite the improvement in crude oil production at 1.6 million barrels per day, it remained significantly lower than the 2023 budget benchmark of 1.69 million barrels per day and the OPEC quota of 1.7 million barrels per day. The Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Oil, Senator Heineken Lopobiri, expressed the determination of the government to increase production to 2 million barrels per day by December. He said the government was committed to removing all bottlenecks hindering ease of exploring and production in the energy sector. In entertainment news, Afrobeat singer Davido has challenged a 2.3 billion naira breach of contract suit filed against him by the chairman of Brown Hill Investment Company Limited, Amaju Pinnick. Recall that Pinnick, a former president of the Nigeria Football Federation (NFF), on October 31 filed a lawsuit alleging that Davido breached a contract to perform at the 19th edition of the Warrior Again event on October 6, 2023. He claimed that Davido failed to appear at the event after receiving a payment of $94,500. However, during the hearing of the suit, Davido, through his legal team led by Norrison Quakers, challenged the jurisdiction of the Delta State High Court in a forum to entertain the matter. The singer argued that the issue should be treated as a debt recovery case, noting that Pinnick should have issued a demand letter before legal action. Also, Davido denied that Soso Berkon, who signed the contract on his behalf, was his authorized agent. The court, however, adjourned to 14th of December 2023 to rule on the preliminary objections filed in both cases. And finally, sports news. Former Super Eagles coach Samson Siasia is worried that the present Super Eagles players lack what it takes to be African champions. The ex-international, in his first official interview after the expiration of his FIFA ban, said though the current team comprises of quality players, playing as a unit remains the missing link. He said, like majority of Nigerians, he is worried about the Eagles' lackluster performances so far. Struggling against countries like Lesotho and Zimbabwe is not a good signature of a team ready to win the Nations Cup and qualify for the 2026 World Cup. On his possible return to handle the Eagles, the Bielsa-born coach said he will be open to help. And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. My name is Nyamgul Agaji. Thanks for being there.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Cardoso made this known at the Annual Bankers Dinner and 60th anniversary of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, CIBN, in Lagos State. The former Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget in Lagos said the previous administration pumped 10 trillion naira into quasi-interventionist activities that were not the areas of strength of the Apex Bank. He said events in the past few years have not portrayed the Apex Bank in good light. He said, too, the CBN has strayed from its core mandate and engaged in quasi-fiscal activities through different initiatives in sectors ranging from agriculture, PAR, and many others. Now, these clearly distracted the bank from achieving its own objectives and took it to areas where it had limited expertise. Furthermore, the Apex Bank chief said commercial banks in the country will be directed to increase their capital base as they do not currently have sufficient capital relative to the finance system needs in servicing a $1 trillion economy. On the show today, we'll keep our eye on the CBN macroeconomic policies, banks recapitalization, and lots more. Welcome to Business Insights in Plus TV Africa. I am Justin Akadonia. Now, in the wake of the biting effect of inflation and its impact, Nigerians have been advised to invest in real estate as it is the best way to shore up economic losses. The convener of the Go Real Pro, Jane Onwumere, said this at the opening of a 2-day real estate network marketing business mastery conference. Details now.
First quarter of 2024, I'm going to do XYZ with this particular affiliate.
This conference is not just about teaching. It is about empowering anyone who wants to be a professional networker and those who want to learn how to apply networking principles to grow their businesses. It kicks off for this panel session.
It's not everybody that you meet that will buy land. Some of them need money.
Participants are taken through effective strategies including personal development, digital and network marketing, among others.
Not everybody is a salesperson. Not everybody is a network marketer. Not everybody, I mean, with all due respect to all the other topics, everything is important. But I believe that everybody should be, regardless of your profession, regardless of your field of endeavor, everybody should be interested in personal development.
But if you would embody the energy of a big time closer, you will close even without speaking to anybody, and somebody says, I want to close with this particular person. They will call your name.
What is your reason for doing digital marketing? Who are your target audience in digital marketing? Now, on the internet, there are various people you meet. There are people you want to make relationship with today and probably do a business transaction with them in future.
We catch up with the convener, Jane Onwumere. She reveals plan to officially unveil a startup grant of 1.5 million naira to 5 million naira to over 120 persons to enable Nigerians and Africans kickstart their journey to becoming real estate professionals.
I saw what we call estate agents, always quarreling over commission, always fighting over, I brought this customer, I did this. And I said to my husband, that we can give this thing a professional look. That agents don't have to fight if we make this thing professional. So that's what gave birth to what is today known as the real estate network marketing business.
She also bears her mind on current economic issues, specifically as they concern real estate development in the country and the way forward.
So if you invest money carefully into real estate, it's something that will eventually come back again and give you back value. You understand? So really, it has not affected real estate. Realtors are coming up every day. Real estate companies are springing up every day, which goes to show that even in the time of inflation, real estate is still working. If all of us join hands together, we will solve the housing problem. And that's what we are going to be explaining tomorrow evening when we get to that part of this program. We are going to be talking to people about how we can collectively confront the housing problem.
Onwumere reveals that the industry must continue to develop more entrepreneurs because there are some gaps that need to be filled if more Nigerians are to become home owners. Welcome back now. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Olayemi Cardoso, has said that for quite some time, there has been a dislocation of the monetary transmission mechanisms, rendering the MPC meetings largely ineffective. Now, Cardoso hinted that a new price management and stability framework that will lead to improvement in average living standards is underway. Now, the inflation management plan, soon to be unveiled by the Central Bank of Nigeria, is in conjunction with the Ministry of Finance and other relevant fiscal authorities. I have the principal partner, Woodridge and Scott Consulting, Segun Shobito, joining me now to discuss further on this development. Good morning to you, Segun. All right, we seem to be having issues. Okay, thanks for staying with us, Segun. Okay, let us start this way. There were lots of revelations and inroads made at the weekend by the central bank governor, Yemi Cardoso, and he has said that his predecessor pumped 10 trillion naira into quasi-interventionist activities that were not the areas of strength of the Apex Bank. How do you reason this aberration? What exactly went wrong?
Okay, thanks for having me again. The speech of the central bank governor, the new central bank governor, was quite interesting. It was extremely engaging and was something that everybody that plays in the financial sector would need to pore over and run through. There was a lot of messaging, and then there were also some things that were not said, but that were kind of alluded to. That it's important that the markets understand. Talking about the activities of the CBN prior to his assumption of this office, describing those activities as an aberration may not be entirely correct, and I am a bit concerned at what appears to be an attempt to demonize the central bank. We have to remember that the central bank is an institution; it's not a person. And the central bank of a country is the central bank of that country, regardless of who the central bank governor might be. Saying that the CBN went outside of its mandate, got distracted, and all of those things may not necessarily be true. So if you look at the things that the central bank was doing with a lot of the policies of the former CBN governor, I think a lot of his policy actions were a big problem for the economy. But I don't think one of those problems was the interventionist activities of the CBN. I think those activities were necessary, given where the Nigerian economy is today. The Nigerian economy is in a crisis. I mean, we have to recognize this. We're in an economic crisis that can be likened to a situation of a country at war. It's that serious. Inflation is out of control. Exchange rates, volatility is out of control. You are having 30% swings in the value of your currency within a matter of days. This is an aberration. There is no economy that can survive that kind of volatility, right? So and these things have been in our situation for a while. When you run an economy in crisis, interventionist activities by central banks is not an aberration, it's not unusual. And I can give you examples. During the COVID pandemic, 2020 and 2021, all central banks across the entire world, the Federal Reserve, the UK Bank of England, the EU Central Bank, the various country central banks did provide financial intervention programs to fund and boost development and growth, because economies were suffering from potential decline into recession on the back of the decline in economic activity during the COVID pandemic. That's one example. Central banks got directly involved in creating funds and providing those funds to households, to businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large corporations. The central banks in those countries provided that. You can go back as well to 2007, 2008, the global financial crisis. The central banks across the world provided bailout funds. So this thing that the CBN was doing under Emefiele in the last 3-4 years, the Anchor Borrower Program, the various intervention funds to the aviation sector, to the energy sector, is nothing new. In fact, the Central Bank of Nigeria, before Emefiele, 2010, I remember vividly, had a manufacturer sector intervention fund that was specifically targeted at medium-sized manufacturing enterprises that had run into crisis and that had loans that were crippling the banking sector.
All right.
The CBN provided intervention funds to bail those manufacturers out and then to help them revamp their businesses. So when a new CBN governor comes on board and then tries to create the impression that the actions and the activities of the central bank prior to his assumption were abnormal, they are an aberration, they were a distraction, it's not true. It's not true at all. And I wonder what the objectives are. I think what we need to see is the central bank today providing policy direction for the entire economy, monetary and otherwise, to lift us out of the problems that we're seeing now, to curtail inflation as a matter of urgency, and to at the same time boost growth. Those two objectives are very difficult to balance, but they must do it.
All right, Chego, let's still examine some of the things that he said specifically concerning inflation and other macroeconomic, indices. The MPC meetings, he actually talked about that and the outcomes, and he said the outcomes have actually been largely ineffective over time. Right now, headline inflation has surged to 27.33% as that's last month's figures. Now, Cardoso said the CBN was well aware of the damage inflation had caused to living conditions and businesses, assuring that a new inflation policy would actually, be taken over time. I just want to get your reactions concerning, his statement concerning the outcomes of the MPC and how ineffective they have been.
Yes, I agree with the Central Bank of